So ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, who kind of governs all this welding criteria, and AWS, the American Welding Society, put the ASME come out with B31.3, which is process piping in chemical plants, refineries, pulp and paper mills, and for years it included everything but the hoses. Hoses was like the weakest link in the system, but it was never covered. Now Section 9 of ASME B31.3 incorporates welding and brazing qualifications. And if you don't have them in certain plants, the Dows, the DuPonts, the Marathons, the Chevrons of the world, you're not getting in a plant if you don't have these things. So not only do your welders get certified, your facility, you may be called by Dow or DuPont to want to come in and do an ASME Section 9 certification of your shop. Now, are you ready for that? That's another thing Gregor does, is comes in and qualifies your shop before an auditor comes in. For example, where do you keep your weld rod? In a box in the back. Is it in a cabinet or on a shelf? It is in a cabinet. Is the cabinet locked? Because you keep it locked? Mm-hmm. You did good. You passed the ASME Section 9 test. It's got to be locked up. It's got to have limited access, because the big game today is positive material identification. And if you tell somebody to go grab you a rod and he grabs you the wrong rod, and you use it, you're the ones that's responsible because you're the welder. If you have limited access and you go grab your own rod, then you're okay. But somebody else grabs it for you, it could be a problem. This all stemmed from a problem in Festus, Missouri about 15 years ago. A company had Monel hose for a coin application. The guy laid it out on the floor to get it ready for the welders, and somehow a piece of 304 braid got put down there instead of Monel. So they put 304 braid on the hose. Guy hooked it up to a rail car in a little town called Festus, Missouri, just east of St. Louis, and went in. It was cold winter night, and he went into his shack, and within 10 minutes the hose started leaking, dumped the entire rail core of chlorine on the ground. They had to evacuate the city of Festus, Missouri. A lot of people went to the hospital. Nobody died, fortunately. A lot of people went to the hospital with chemical pneumonia. And since that point in time, this has been talked about and talked about. There's YouTube videos on it. You Google Festus, Missouri, chlorine leak, you will get the videos of this whole thing happening. So it was a big deal. And that's where positive material identification has come into play. If you have to have an ASME Section 9 certified shop and they're going to come in and inspect you, if you need the help, just remember that we can help you with that. So, there's ASME certified shops, there's ASME certified welders. I have people that call me and say, Mike, I have an audit coming up. A customer said he wants to see my welding procedure specification, or WPS. He said, can I borrow one? I said, well, which one do you want? He said, what do you mean? You got more than one? I said, absolutely. Carbon to carbon is one WPS. Carbon to stainless is another WPS. Stainless to stainless is another PS. A WPS is like a recipe. And what it does is any qualified welder who knows his stuff, you hand him this piece of paper, he can go set up his machine, he knows what amps to turn it up, he knows what thickness of wire to use, he knows what alloy that he has to use based on the two metals that he's combining. So it's a recipe for that weld. And any good welder who knows this stuff ought to be able to look at a WPS down on the table and do his job. And you know, I have guys who still call me and say, hey, I got an auditor coming in, he wants to look at one of my WPSs, can I borrow one of yours? I said, well, which one do you want? He says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if it's carbon to stainless, that's one weld. If it's stainless to stainless, that's another weld. If it's carbon to carbon, that's another procedure. So each one of them changes as the material changes. So you don't just have one WPS. The very minimum, you should have those three. Stainless to stainless, stainless to carbon, carbon to carbon. Those should be the three minimums that you have. And then there's the PQR, which means that the guy who has the weld qualification is actually qualified to it. So you have to qualify to the procedure, which means you have to do a test on the hose. The test is always either a bend test or a pull test. It's both. And the metal can never break at the weld. It has to break in the parent material. If it breaks in the weld, you fail the test. And that's how you get Section 9 certification. So You got the WPS and the PQR, very important documents. If you don't have them, sometime down the road in the future, you may be eliminated from some business in the area.